Hey, welcome. As I mentioned, this is our last meeting of 2025. So really happy to have spent the last year diving into readiness and adoption and AI with this amazing group of contributors. So um, we're going to continue to do a little bit of a deep dive. Last week or last meeting, we did a deep dive into some of our projects to sort of reflect on all the great work that our committees have been, or working groups have been doing. And we're going to continue that a little bit today. We're going to dive deep into the second of the upskilling playbooks, and Stephen Hill is here to talk about that with us today, who is the author of that playbook. Dan Healy is going to do a little bit of a deep dive into his thinking around an AI policing toolkit and the frame around the 5 pillars that he envisions around that project. And then we'll have some time for some project updates. We have a couple of updates from our projects, and we'll review our AI policy and adoption and any of our last ongoing action items. And if there's interest or time, we will give some space to teams if they want to do some breakouts. So that's our normal flow. But I wanted to, the upskilling group, as you know, has been very prolific and had so much energy and momentum. They've created a lot of resources and they're continuing to work on additional resources. But they've really been providing a lot of really great resources and energy around developing these playbooks, supported by a high-level visual of how to navigate through those playbooks. So, Stephen, I believe we're doing rolling out an education plan, correct, as our next review?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
great. So, and that's going to be really helpful, but I'm going to hand it over to Stephen to walk us through this playbook, and we'll ask any questions at the end that you have or take any feedback around the tool that he's developed. So, Stephen, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you want to share, I will turn mine off.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I'll share my screen.
Great.
Okay, so this is the rolling out an education plan playbook. It's really kind of the second stage of our playbooks that we built. And it's framed off of a project, or rather a pilot that we recently have gone through. It's designed to be a 12-week program and really focuses on teaching the fundamentals of AI from a platform agnostic approach. So you can access this on the San Jose SharePoint, and there is also a document for more details. But basically, the program, you start off by figuring out where you are in the overall AI adoption within your organization. So for us, we've done 3 pilots. So we kind of started off by figuring out, how do we define value? How do we try to build AI into the different work processes where it is applicable? So from that, you can start looking at what are some of the use cases. I know some people are very early in their journeys, so this may or may not be as in depth as maybe some jurisdictions that are further along. Then you need to be informing and setting the roles and expectations. So, for example, with our first pilot, there was more of an exploratory aspect to what we were trying to achieve. But in this most recent one, we wanted to actually start building out user personas and use cases for those personas, because you can do document analysis, quantitative analysis, and that isn't specific to a financial analyst or a policy analyst. So we started looking at, how do we get personas of our users and what aligns with those. As I mentioned, we used a 12-week curriculum as our baseline, just so we could get through a full quarter and make sure we had enough data points from the users. And before we did that, we worked backwards from what the outcomes were. And what I mean by that is, we wanted people to be comfortable with using AI. We wanted them to be using it responsibly and safely. And we wanted to build in a lot of that muscle memory of how to use AI effectively and safely, of course. So from that, we decided to design various demo kits. labs for the users. And then we established kind of a golden set of documents to make sure that everybody was kind of using the same playbook. And the way that we structured the delivery was we used multiple touch points through every week. So the beginning of the week, every Monday, people knew that they were going to get an email from us that had tips and tricks on how to use AI. It also had kind of prompt starters, if you will, kind of scenarios that could be applied to multiple departments, and then kind of tips on how to use those. So it could be something like this week, do a meeting summary and develop a proposal out of an email in your inbox. Then every Wednesday, we had two touch points with people. Basically, it was a morning and an afternoon session. The way that they were structured is 30-minute sessions. Basically, we would open up the floor for people, and that was to get people comfortable with bringing ideas or pain points or questions to the group. And then we had a really brief training session, and you'll see this in the document that's on the SharePoint. Everything was designed to be covered in about 15 minutes. So we would always start every training session with, this is how you safely use it, just a quick reminder of the safety guidelines. And then everything was built off of the same prompt framework. So we used Factor, and you'll see that in the playbook also online. But the purpose of keeping every training the same structure, the same approach, was just so people were building that rhythm. They understood, okay, every time I prompt, I need to think about prompt engineering, not putting PII in or sensitive information. And then the training would continue with a live demo. So I would walk people through a scenario. We tried to choose from all the different departments. We had 6 of them go through this most recent one. And I would try to choose a pain point from each of those departments, and each week just go through one of those. And then we would leave people with an optional homework, kind of like a lab assignment that was related to the topic. So in week 13, there's data analysis. And the homework for that would be find a data set that you're working with and do some kind of quantitative or qualitative analysis of it. And then we didn't enforce submitting all the homework. Again, we didn't want to leave people with homework, but we gave them a lab. So people could turn in their assignments. Of course, we had office hour booking link. So if you had questions outside of the office hours, you could always reach out to us. But that's really how we tried to frame the delivery and scheduling. We also recorded all the sessions and then hosted them on our Center of Excellence, which is the SharePoint that has like use cases, a registry, links to all the documents and cheat sheets that users might need. So another aspect of the training program is focusing on quality, and that's why we have the same structure for all the training. We want people to be approaching AI safely and responsibly, first and foremost, understand that AI isn't the solution to everything, and then also get them used to prompt engineering. There's a lot of different frameworks. You'll see Factor in the playbook, but we really want people to understand that high quality inputs will yield high quality outputs. You'll see the guardrails and risk controls. That's a big thing. We just want to build that muscle memory because this technology is new. There are data loss prevention solutions and a lot of monitoring tools. But if you can start building that muscle memory early, then you can prevent potential spillage or incidents. So once you have all of that kind of structured, we went into the cohort launch. For us, we did 50 Copilot users and 65 ChatGPT users. I think the strength of choosing an education plan like this is to not be platform specific. So everything that we teach is more about the mindset. How do you interact with these tools? You don't need to become emotionally tied to Gemini or Claude or Grok, but we try to approach it as platform agnostic. And that's why we were able to launch kind of 2 simultaneous cohorts. Throughout the process, we also had a midpoint review and we had surveys. So what we did is we would send out a monthly survey for people, and this would touch on both qualitative and quantitative touch points, things like how much time are you saving, how many of your routine tasks are you integrating AI into, and then also qualitative feedback. And then we would follow up with spot one-on-one reports. We used a lot of automation to kind of help us because our team had 3 people, myself, and two coworkers were managing this group of 110 people. So we leveraged a lot of automation in the process, whether that was for dealing with the email distribution, collecting reports, feeding that into a Power BI dashboard. But automation is how you can really expand your reach without having to bring in a lot of people. We did have two touch points for leadership readouts. So we gave kind of an update around the first third of the program. So after that first month, and then a second one at the end of the second month, and then a final readout with those final metrics that we collected. Throughout the course of this, again, just the way that the course is structured, you're having people walk through kind of a weekly deliverable, if you will. And that's an easy way to get a lot of use cases and build a registry as well. You'll see on here the quarterly upgrades, scaling, and program health. And I think it's important to just consider that this technology is changing. The capabilities of ChatGPT and Copilot at the beginning of the year are vastly different from where they are right now. And so I think it's important to make sure that you're capturing those metrics throughout the process. And that is a part of the playbook because when we move to scale, for example, we're moving on to ChatGPT Enterprise, we have a whole new set of survey questions and use cases that we're going to be looking for. So the playbook is designed to be very modular. It's designed to take you from no AI experience to having people that are proficient and comfortable with using it responsibly. And then from there, you can really iterate. So that's the high level overview. Again, this is available on the SharePoint. The playbook is also there. It goes into much more detail, but I'll probably pause to take questions from anybody.
It would be great if anybody has any questions or feedback on this high-level overview. The accompanying document is a Word document. It's about 20 pages, right, Stephen?
Yeah. It's 20 pages. It has all of the kind of skeletons from what we used, so you don't have to start from scratch. And it has the progression of the topics and the prompt framework, and then a few appendices with more additional resources.
Great. And how do you envision another agency? Like I think you've built a lot of this around your agency and your experiences, but how would you anticipate any agency using this resource?
Well, I think the beauty of it is it's not pro or platform specific, nor is it size specific. So you can really take this playbook and understand the outcomes up front. There is an executive summary that talks about the metrics that you should target and that you'll walk away with. A lot of the strengths around the way that we designed it is it's really reinforcing safe and responsible usage. So any agency could pick up the playbook, scale it to what they're working on. But as you go through the 12-week course, again, you could probably condense it if you had the bandwidth and people, but you could walk away from this 12-week program with users that are comfortable with prompting AI, how to use it responsibly, how to identify workflows that it fits. Again, a lot of vendors are going to say AI can solve everything, but the playbook teaches you kind of how to find those pain points where AI can fit and where it shouldn't be applied necessarily. So I would see people using this to kind of use it as guidelines for when they develop their own programs. You don't have to be a large county, you don't have to be a small one. It really can be applied for anybody.
Great. And I see Terrence has his hand raised.
Yeah, I was wondering, is it possible to share that document? I know you said it was a 20 page and there was like a couple links in here, but it asked for like a username and a password to get in. But I didn't know if it was possible just to email that link over for us over here in Illinois. This is a huge deal. We're a rural area and everybody believes AI is their friend. We're trying to get some attorneys involved to get some documents because we are government, much like yourself. So we definitely need all the help we can get. So this would be great if it could be shared.
Yeah, it's you just need to get access from Albert or the San Jose team.
Yeah, Terrence, if you send me your email, I should be able to give you access. And then also, um, Rich and Steven, once we're ready, and it seems like we're getting pretty close. Um, we can post a public version of this that's just downloadable right off of the San Jose website,
Yeah,
which is just going to make the, you know, download access issue pretty, you know, basically a non-issue.
Great. I put my email in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome.
great. And Albert, did you have your hand raised for an actual question too, or just...
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Stephen and team really love where this has gone. I think to the point that Rich is getting at, maybe it's just like sorry, I'm like pointing at my screen like you're able to see that. Um, but somewhere here, I don't know if you can see my annotation, uh,
Mhm.
but somewhere here, basically just something that says go here or like use this document or follow this when you are building your AI training. Or here are the main components that you should have in your AI training for staff. Just
Mhm.
just to frame it, because then that way when I read program intake and readiness and portfolio intake and scoring, I can be like, oh, okay, so this is within the context of like program intake. So I need to think about the educational intake, portfolio intake. Maybe I'm thinking about what use cases our staff are going to be thinking about. Lab kits. Oh, okay, it's lab kits for the training itself, right? Just that top line framing, I think, will go a long way in orienting people.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see, Albert, a lot of people putting emails in the chat about access. And, I pulled these from the SharePoint folder, the upskilling folder in the SharePoint. So if people have they need access to the SharePoint is what they need, right?
Yeah, I will I'll be working on giving people access in the background. You should in the next couple of minutes, folks, get an email that basically says you have access at this email address. It should come from like Microsoft. So you should be getting those in a few minutes, and if you're still having trouble, feel free to message me again in the chat.
Great. Thank you. And Angelica, I see your hand is raised also.
Thank you. And this is fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that there's some content out here. Training is something we're looking at too from the readiness perspective here at the City of Durham. Um, is there a phase two, such as like pathways? So this looks like what you would look at from a baseline perspective. Are you all also considering like pathways for individuals who either, let's say we have like a power user who feels very, very well versed with AI from a generative perspective, or even a champion from a generative and machine learning perspective? Are there opportunities for that here too, or is that something completely different?
Yeah, actually, the next time I present will be on custom GPTs and agents. Um,
Nice.
I will also say that we are looking at applying for a grant called the Activate AI grant, and we're developing kind of an AI implementer course for that. So the idea is to reach that next tier of education because a lot of training is around prompt engineering or it's on the data science side. So we are working on a more in-depth program as well that'll teach like workflows, how to integrate agents just based off of what we've been doing.
And Angelica, I just wanted to also mention that I don't know if you were here at the last meeting, but we had somebody come in and talk about some ideas around approaching training from a tiered perspective. And though that presentation might be helpful for you, but I think we're going to be thinking about that as a committee going forward as well. So,
Awesome. I'll try to find a recording if I can. Thank you.
okay. And I'll be happy to send you that meeting follow-up with the summary of points and the presentation slides. So,
Please and thank you.
all right. And Rick, I see your hand raised too.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Angelica on behalf of the upskilling working group. We might have, I think there's a slide coming up in this meeting around that, but that's actually a big part of what the upskilling working group is trying to do is create a variety of these things, and certifications are part of it, and Stephen is on the front line of that. And I'm looking to go as far as apprenticeships because I agree with you completely. You need real specialists And there are going to be people in many cities and agencies that want to be deeper and be the expert. And we don't want to limit the training that was a part of the whole seed of having an upskilling working group. So I love that you're asking that question, and pay it if you're still around for the rest of the presentation and you get to the slides about how you can join that. You know, it's no obligation, but we're doing some really interesting work, and it would be great to have people in Durham or wherever that are interested in those kind of learning pathways, because we're really looking for exemplars that we could tailor things to.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And any other comments for Stephen, who has done such great work on this? And assuming, Stephen, if people are digesting this playbook and have questions for you, you'd be happy to engage with them in
Oh
some
yeah,
capacity?
definitely. Yeah, feel free to reach out anytime to talk about anything related to AI. I'll put my email in the chat again.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this dive into this, and we'll get everybody access that needs access to the document to review that. And again, I'll send links again in the follow-up message from the meeting so that you can access it beyond the chat here. And if you do use these, and I think the people that build these are doing this to provide assistance, obviously. But if you find yourself using these and applying them, we would love to get feedback on that and love to hear your stories of how you've used the tools that we're developing, because that's really going to inform our work as a committee, and it's really helpful for us to get feedback on that. Um, so we're going to switch gears to talk about AI and police. Is Dan here?
I'm here.
Okay. And you're going to do a bit of a deep dive into your thought process around the AI toolkit for police, correct?
Yes, I
Okay.
think I'm sharing, and you can see
Yeah,
it.
great.
All right. So I'm Dan Healy. I'm from Sassoon City Police Department, California. We're a small department, so we have to be innovative, and that's how I got involved in this. But I'm going over our plan. We have a separate work group that meets for the policing group, and we kind of made this 2026 plan of action. It's around these pillars, like Rich mentioned in the beginning, and a pledge, and that's what I was talking to Albert about, but we'll discuss all that. So the in policing, police departments and municipal agencies, and even in counties, generally work kind of like a small city where they run their own HR, finance, and all those kind of duties. So it operates kind of in a silo a lot of times. So sometimes the information that you all are working so hard on may not reach into police departments, or it may just be that police executives want somebody from the industry to explain it to them in a way that they can understand. So we're kind of looking at police and fire as specific departments that might need more of a curated, you know, presentation of this information. So there's a lot of great work going on in this group that applies to police departments, and we're happy to use all that and reframe it into that. So this is what we're trying to do, is just promote responsible and purposeful AI in policing. That's the goal of the GovAI Coalition. We came up with these strategic pillars to kind of guide us in how to do that. Training has been discussed a lot at the GovAI conference. That was an ongoing and popular topic, and we're all trying to work on how do we upskill people. At smaller agencies, I think somebody mentioned from Illinois earlier that their rural department, you may not have a big support network to lean on, and you may have to become the local expert. So it's important even in policing or fire, whatever duties you do, to get these AI tools. So then with us, everything goes through the policies. That's how we hold each other accountable. In leadership and procurement, there's a lot of discussion about what's being sold to law enforcement and whether it works or not. It's kind of like a gold rush now to try and sell products and get things implemented quickly. And we haven't had time to stop and assess and see if these things are actually causing efficiencies or helping us do our job better, serve the community better. And specific to the police department, I think more than any department in any organization, transparency and community engagement, we need to start with trust and legitimacy because it's only going to take one or two failures of these systems to, erode the public trust and cause unwanted harm. And then interagency collaboration, like I said, that's this group and others. There's a lot of them out there, but again, I'm the only sworn police officer that's in the policing group, so we're open to having other members. We just need to get more engagement in our specific industry from the people that are practitioners. So for our Pillar 1 training, we did the AI 101 for policing at the California Police Chiefs Conference in October, but I'm working on digitizing it so we could just share that, similar to what Jim Brown's doing with the fire service. And then coming up with these other levels of training, kind of like what Stephen was just talking about, developing training plans and just empowering agencies to create their agency-specific training to get the baseline for everybody and upskill the organizations overall, but then to let the super users or whoever's interested to get additional skills in these areas. And then to inform chiefs and decision makers on AI, what's going on. We'll talk about digital credentialing and a toolkit for the agencies. We were trying to create a tangible takeaway, and the AI toolkit is essentially the product that we're trying to give out to police departments that are interested. For the Pillar 2, which is our policy and governance, model AI use policies. Some departments, California, we have a company called Lexipol, which is popular, and they have a model AI policy, but in other states, this doesn't exist, or they might not have adopted an AI use policy specific to policing. Transparency and data governance. A lot of agencies are adopting self-disclosure of AI products that they're using for policing and how it's gathering data and storing data on the community. There's lots of questions about where it's stored and who has access to it and what exactly you're gathering about people. Obviously, in our industry, there's a lot of sensitive data. Probably only second to healthcare, but we might be above them. Bias and risk assessment tools. So there's a lot of talk about algorithmic biases in policing and how these systems are built, but then also automation biases of users getting a tool like facial recognition or automated license plate readers, something like that, and then just over trusting the technology without taking the additional steps to do the old-fashioned police work and investigating. And then ultimately being accountable to the community and auditing the systems. Like I said, a lot of new systems are coming out. There's a lot of cool functions and processes that are coming out, but we don't really know which ones work and don't work yet. And I think that we're all pretty good at buying things, but we're not really good at evaluating after the fact to see if this is something that we want to keep on doing. So in the third pillar, it really focuses on the leaders in our organization. I know that Maddie and them presented last time about the guidelines for elected officials. And I think that that ties directly into the guidelines for police chiefs and procurement staff in police organizations, depending on how big your organization is. And then vendor vetting. We talked about coming up with some model RFPs or contract languages. Some of the agencies discussed requiring disclosure by vendors if they include new AI functionality or something along those lines. So that may be something that people look at as they go forward with contracts to require that at least they let you know if you bought their product that they've added additional AI functionality, what it does or how it works, just so you're aware. And then just transparency of the vendors that you're using. So for the engagement, there was a good presentation at the GovAI Coalition Summit about community engagement. It was one of the breakout sessions, and they talked about, they had a whole framework on how to engage the community prior to these deployments. And it's honestly not something that we have been doing. Most agencies are just getting this technology and testing it and seeing if it works. But I think it's valuable to think about it on the front end. To get the community buy-in. Each agency, each city, each state obviously is going to have a different threshold for what they're willing to implement or not implement, risk reward, and what kind of automations they're willing to do. So it's going to have to be on a city by city or county by county, basis. So we just talked about, these are some ideas of what we could come up with, and people have discussed cross-sector AI ethics boards. I think there's a lot of people looking into AI companies and especially in policing and then doing their own investigations. I know the Policing Project NYU, which is one of our collaborators, is looking into some ALPR vendors, and that's all valuable for us to get the information that they're working on. Again, the summit was a great place to collaborate and share ideas. And then for us, including the academic partners in the beginning of this process. So we're working with UC Berkeley, trying to get them to partner with us to assess this once we're able to launch our pledge, which goes to this. The idea is that we have something in policing called 30 by 30, which is a national pledge to try and increase the number of female officers to 30% by 2030. It's a voluntary thing. Agencies just sign up for it, they register, and then they check in every year to say like what kind of progress and things they're making to hire better represent female officers in our profession. So kind of along those lines, this pledge would be something where somebody could voluntarily sign up for a responsible and purposeful implementation of AI in policing. It's a low threshold to say that we commit to trying to do this. In exchange, we could offer them a toolkit, which would include the AI 101 course, the checklist, the guidelines for the elected officials, or some variant that is for the chiefs of police, the procurement officers, the things that Stephen were presenting, like how to start an education plan for AI, and just kind of package all these great resources that the GovAI Coalition, all you are working on, into one package so that police departments can build out their programs. So it's hard to get momentum maybe with the whole city, but on a department by department basis, I think that we could get some adopters. And police chiefs and cities, love to be pledging to do things. And then once they do, it kind of gets them to be motivated about, oh, are you in this or what are you doing? And I think it will gain momentum and build upon that. Then hopefully if we're able to get Berkeley or other academic partners involved to research later to see like, did joining the pledge actually help you to move your agency forward? Did you train more employees than you had before? Did you get the policies implemented that you didn't have before? And circle back and see if it actually worked. And I think after we have some success, hopefully in that area, then we can move this forward. So it's kind of, for me, and the way we're looking at it is to build momentum in the policing side and have this thing just grow its own legs so that we don't have to do so much manual encouragement of this. So we built the timeline. It's not important, but we're trying to develop the toolkit, like I said, right now, and then hopefully launch it and then build momentum. Start with a smaller group and get early adopters involved and then build it out. And then we recognize that there's a lot of organizations to collaborate with. These are just some of them. But again, depending on your agency, the IT department may be some contracted company, or it may be an in-house for the city or county, or it may be actually assigned to your department, depending on how the size is. 911, again, could be a regional resource or it could be an in-house service. So all these things are dependent on the organization itself, and each organization is going to have to kind of identify their own strategic partners in the implementations. And then depending on where you're located in the country or what your goals are, some of these things may be more or less important to you. But the idea is to make this overarching broad pledge that could be applied nationally, but then it's not so limiting that you would be, fenced into doing something that you don't want to do if it's not the right size for your organization. But also to encourage people, give them all the tools in one place and give them some kind of a tangible takeaway so that we could circle back later and say, hey, did the tools that we provided actually help your organization move down the AI road more than you were? So that's basically it. I'm open to questions.
Dan, thanks so much. I've been attending a few of Dan's working group meetings, and he presented this very thorough plan in that meeting. I was like, you've got to bring this to the bigger committee so that they can see the vision that you have for this. And I think it's really comprehensive, and I think that's smart because policing does impact so many areas, and really impacts community trust in all of our jurisdictions for sure. And I was just struck by how much thought you'd put into this and what you're envisioning, and wanted to get that here. But I really want to get people's feedback on this plan that Dan has, and what he's put together here. So if you
Yeah,
have
I'd be
questions,
open to feedback too. I talked briefly to Albert about the roadblock, I guess, for me at this point is the pledge. Like, how do you do it? Where do you host it? What do you get from it? How
Mhm.
much do you analyze it? And it's not supposed to be like a gotcha thing, or like I said, it's supposed to be a positive, encouraging type of a thing. And I think GovAI Coalition is the natural place to host it because you get people to register to become members, but then also in exchange, you get some kind of a product back for signing up for it. And I know at the Coalition Summit, there was talk about spreading, across the United States to areas where it's not very active. And so hopefully if we're providing this product, we might be able to get that out to other people. But I know in policing, I think I'm confident it would be popular, but I don't know if other departments or other kind of organizations could get buy-in from their executives by saying, hey, if we sign up for this pledge, we could get some tools, even if you already have access to the tools, just to get them more engaged in, oh, we're doing this, project or pledge or whatever however you frame it to get some kind of momentum behind it.
yeah, one thing you might think about, Dan, is I know there's a lot of existing resources, but to me, it's like the value is how do I translate this to my police department, right? How do I make sense of these tools and focus it towards what I'm trying to accomplish in the police area? It's like there's like an overlay almost that I'm
Right.
thinking about. So,
And a simplification, honestly, just like narrowing it down because there may be like really great tools that don't apply. So if
yes.
we can filter those out, that's also helpful. And likewise, like if there's things that we're doing that aren't helpful, then other people can filter that out.
Yeah. Albert, I said,
Dan, I really love this. And I, regarding the pledge, I think it makes a ton of sense that it is this we can have the pledge itself, the language of the pledge be general, like you said, responsible and purposeful AI, so long as the scope is targeted. And what I mean by that is you're saying specifically for like police
Right.
departments to sign, right? And so this is focusing on like police chiefs and getting them comfortable. I
Right.
think that makes a ton of sense. And the value, like you said, and I'm apologies, I haven't been in too many of the meetings with you, but please feel free to reach out. Like I see the values being exactly the trainings that we can offer. Um, I and I'm sure others would be more than happy to provide if like office hours or if, you know, I know, for example, San Jose, right? San Jose is lucky enough to where we have someone where when our police department has an AI tool and they're like, what the heck is this? They can just ask someone in-house. It's like, oh, okay, this is generally like what the tool probably does, and these are probably the things you should look out for. Not legal advice or anything, but just like
Right.
some general guidance. And if that's something that especially a lot of smaller police departments, I could see that being, even if it's just like an hour a month where you either grab me or I think some of the great people that you have like at NYU or other folks that are deeper into it they could just come in that space and ask those questions in a safe environment. And I think that brings me to just the last point I want to make. And Dan, I'm going to take your lead on this. So I want to make sure this is a safe environment for you and fellow police departments, right? Like you are dealing in the most sensitive space when it comes to the intersection of technology and government. And the last thing that I want to do is make it feel like a hostile environment for you and the people in your positions serving our communities. So that's less of like less of a thing that we need to act on in any moment, but just something
Right.
that I want you to be aware that we are aware, like if at any point you feel like we're we're not making this space for that law enforcement perspective, like I want to make sure that you're able to have that space so that we can have these honest conversations on very difficult topics.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's more than welcoming. I've had a good time here. I think the thing is that sometimes these groups are closed off from themselves, so you have to meet them where they are rather
Yeah.
than inviting them to come to where you are. So that's kind of like why we did it through Cal Chiefs, and we're looking to IACP and other groups that are police centered. The information
Yeah.
is no different if it comes from you or from me, but they just may have more trust that I've, looked
For
through
sure.
what you're talking about. So.
Of course. Yeah, and I think getting us into more of those types of police spaces, right?
Right.
Us coming to them, I think, is going to be really valuable.
I agree.
Yeah.
Great. And Angelica, I see you raised your hand.
Yes, Dan, this is an excellent, excellent presentation, and I was really impressed with the strategic pillars piece as well as how you drilled down into each pillar. My follow-up question to you is, are these like the numbers on the strategic pillars, were those in the roadmap pieces of what you all are prioritizing first, second, third, fourth, or okay, that's even better. I
No.
love it even
Yeah,
more. Oh, it's
yeah, I
not?
think it's that way, but we're open to, it's more to be organized, right? Like all of us, we're
Uh-huh.
at the time of the year where you're trying to close out your last few things for this year and get the big ideas for next year, and that was really the impetus for this.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Okay,
I
I was
think that
gonna
it
say.
starts with training, and then you start building those layers into, like you're saying.
The policy. I think that's great if you're going with that approach. Just from what we're seeing from a strategic perspective, we've done something similar where we're looking at establishing the governance first and foremost, so that we have that framework and foundation to build upon for training, procurement, innovation, et cetera.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And Dan, I was talking to Sahar, and this is quite an ambitious project, and she mentioned you may be needing some support and help from the larger committee. And are you soliciting people to come and join you in this effort? And do they need to have police experience to join you in this effort?
Yeah, yeah, I'm open to have whoever wants to come, just knowing that our group is very police focused. So if you're not in that group, it may not be interesting to you. And even to the point where we had a fire police mix, as you know, and we're kind of separating that out because there's even like specific industry to both of those. But we're open to any ideas. It's just that we're really trying to accomplish some tangible things and not just have, discussions about what we might do. So we're really trying to move this forward and actually come up with some accomplishments, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if anybody's interested in that, rather than just having like philosophical conversations about policing and technology, we want to move this thing forward.
You want to get into deliverables and outcomes. And
Yeah.
so if anybody is interested in supporting the police group, please reach out to Dan. We can share his email on the
I'll
post.
put it in the chat.
Yeah, and I'll share it in the post-meeting follow-up just to contact you if they want to join or have interest in helping you move some of these items along.
Yeah, and if they have a police department, if you have a police department, you can send any of those people to me. I'm happy to talk to them for sure.
Great. Thank you. And thanks so much for bringing this to the bigger meeting. It's
Yeah,
great
thanks,
to see it.
Rich.
So,
Thanks, Albert.
okay, let's see. We're going to touch on a few project updates here. Let me share my screen back. So I think the first one is going to be upskilling. And Rick, are you going to lead off this update?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. Speaking back to, I didn't even talk about the playbooks because they're in this stage where we're bringing them in front of you guys. And as Stephen did the one today, and then we have in the first meeting in January 17th or 15th or whatever, he'll be presenting his other one on agentic AI. And to Angelica's question, certification, the two key initiatives are certification, which is around these deeper levels of training than people are typically getting if they're just getting staff training. And then training productivity metrics came up as well in terms of how when Rich was commenting earlier about, hey, if you guys are using these things, we'd like to know that. And so we have two small subgroups within the upskilling working group that are specifically focused on these two areas. And we had kickoff meetings for those. We have a nice core set of people. We've had really good intro conversations and starting to set direction. But anybody who like Angelica is interested in that next step beyond fundamental training or foundation training, we'd love to get perspectives like that. Um, Also, on the certification front, we're looking at two curricula. One is what you just saw, the Jefferson County one, and another is one that's in development from Tyler, Texas, but really GovAI focused because it's actually the the program is a survey course on AI, so it's a little less. You roll out of it and you're doing a lot of exercises in hand, but you are really getting a large. If we get this forward, it'll be you have a very large landscape of what AI can bring and what a lot of the terminology means, and it's all rooted in use cases of that were defined by members of the GovAI Coalition in the use cases group. So that's an interesting course, and we're looking to develop those courses and provide training, and we're talking to potential training partners for that. Um, Along the lines of all these initiatives, we will probably be doing some outreach to the broader community because we really want to understand people's skills objectives. And, when you talk about certifications, they're not for one agency, they're for the entire, they're to be as broad as possible in use, and any certification should be rooted in real skills that and talent and capabilities that people are going to be bringing. And so, and need, they'll be hiring people and wanting their teams to have these. And so we want to make sure that we're getting some representation beyond our little working group in shaping that. So that's pretty much what's going on through the end of the year. We have our next meeting is January 5th. And then I put this also in the chat that we use the adoption support Slack channel where people can catch up on conversations. And sometimes people will post a document there and sometimes they won't. Or I'm sorry if I heard something on the outside. Sometimes people will post a document and then they'll post a link to that in the adoption support Slack channel. And that way, people who aren't on the email thread can really keep track. And then finally, this is how you join the working group. So that's it for us.
Great. Thanks so much, Rick. Thank you both to you and Lon for keeping this working group moving along and so engaged. And thanks to all the members that are really contributing and keeping the momentum going in this project. So the next thing we have is an update on AI for electeds. And I think Maddie was going to check in on this really briefly. So.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Rich. I think Quinn presented maybe 2 weeks ago at the last meeting, but we officially published the AI responsible AI checklist for elected officials and senior agency leaders. So I'll drop that in the chat if anyone missed that. It's currently housed on the CDT website. I think we're in the works of getting that up onto the GovAI Coalition SharePoint so that everyone has access to it. But yeah, thanks again to Rich and Albert for helping out with this and for everyone who provided feedback on the resource. The next sort of step in this work stream is we've actually assembled a webinar with our very own Rich and a representative from the National League of Cities and the National Association for Counties. So we're planning that webinar. I'm hoping that it will be on February 3rd at 11 a.m. So once we get all the details and planning figured out with that, we'll be sure to share a link to sign up for that webinar with this group. But that's it for me.
Great. And that's 11 a.m. Eastern time, right?
Yes, Eastern time. Apologies.
Thanks so much, Maddie. Great work on that resource. And I think Albert, we're going to get that on the website, correct?
Yes, absolutely. We'll be adding that link hopefully this week, and then we'll have that as part of the right on our templates and resources page.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much, Maddie, for the update. And last but not least, Jim Brown on fire.
Thanks, Rich. So we did have our first meeting of the dedicated fire working group Dan mentioned on December 3rd and set out first to establish primary mission is just to promote the responsible use of AI in the fire service. And we chose the word responsible because I think it captures everything from our ethics and transparency and the things that the GovAI Coalition stands for. We do have a standing meeting now that is scheduled for the second Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. I'm going to throw the link to that in the chat. Feel free to pass that on to any fire service members that want to join. But it is specifically, we're talking about fire department uses, and generally we're just basic introduction and then have a use case demonstration and then just open discussion time. So allowing fire departments to share from each other. And then update, I think we're going to go a different way with fire engineering training. Albert, if I'm okay to say this out loud now.
Please.
I think what we're going to try to do is because of the way the GovAI Coalition is currently structured, it doesn't allow them to really sign an MOU, which is what fire engineering training is looking for to host the classes. So we're going to model the MOU so that it's between me and fire engineering training, with me citing GovAI Coalition as a source. So we'll have formal citations in there, and references we're still allowed to keep, but it's kind of it'll kind of lessen the visual how visual GovAI Coalition is as part of this training. Once GovAI Coalition is its own governing agency, then we'll be able to rework that MOU and bring them a little bit further to the forefront. So with that, lessons 1 through 3 are already ready for release with fire engineering training. It is a for-profit platform, but they have agreed that all this training will be offered for free. All the training that we build for them, they're offering for free in their platform. And as of right now, I sent out lesson 4 to the group. Haven't really gotten any substantial feedback, some minor things. So I'm going to forward that to them in January, because I'm pretty much taking the rest of this month, all of January off. So we'll be ready to go from there. But we have about 25 standing members in our working group meeting right now, and just looking to expand it. We have representatives from all the way from fire departments in Hawaii, all the way to Florida, to the Northeast and Central United States. So a really good mix of folks right now in the group. Really happy.
Great. Thanks so much for the update, Jim. And great work on moving all of this forward. And I'm glad to hear of the development with the MOU. So very exciting to see this move forward in the fire engineering space. So, Sage, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, 2 things. Well, Jim, I'm in the fire department too, the fire service in San Jose. I'm definitely interested in what you're working on, and I can reach out to you more directly after this. And then also for Maddie, there was something that you shared there. I was just kind of reading through it. Just I thought it was very interesting, the checklist that you have for the government officials. I did some research too, and I shared it in the Slack channel. And I'm going to see. I think there's a lot of overlap. I can just by skimming it. But anyway, I'd be interested to learn more from your research there, and I just want to throw that out there that I've been doing some research in the back end too, and I shared it in Slack.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll drop my email in the chat, so you can feel free to reach out to me directly.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much. And before we move on, Stephen, did you want to talk about Stephen, are you there? I don't know if he's here.
Yeah, Rich.
Didn't know if you wanted to talk about your grant letter and situation.
Sure. So just for reference, we as Jefferson County, we're applying for the Activate AI grant, and it's a program to fund basically a training for both internal and external employees. We're working with our workforce development team. And the idea is kind of to take the trainings that we've done internally and move it to the next level. So teach people how to use we'll start off with AI responsible use and then move on to agents, building workflows, and how to automate a lot of your processes. The idea is that we could package this and then give it to other jurisdictions so they can run similar trainings from their own jurisdictions. And we're working with another organization to try to get a certification behind it. What Rich was mentioning is we are interested, if other people are interested in this, feel free to reach out. We are looking for letters of support, just if other people are interested. And I'll put my email in the chat one more time, and feel free to just send me an email if you'd like more information about what we're trying to do.
And Albert, I wasn't sure if there was any potential synergy between what Steven's doing with his grant and our efforts at the coalition, and if there's any convergence there that we see. So
Yeah, and Stephen, forgive me if I missed an email, but I believe we talked about this over email. I think this makes sense as and what we've normally done in the past is like Stephen, for example, if this is something that you want to run with, and then the coalition has like gets like a small amount of that grant, and our job is just to help with what's the word, distributing.
Yeah, from what I understand, like once this certification, if we go through like NOCD in this case,
Yeah.
from a branding perspective, it would be like the GovAI more from the branding and spreading it around to other jurisdictions. We would package up the training curriculum so that other people can scale it and see how we ran it. But that you're exactly right.
Yeah. And obviously in that, Stephen, please pull me in or Rich or and Rich, sorry, I'm speaking for the group here, so
that's
correct me if
okay,
I'm wrong.
yeah.
But if we're going to get a certification, I want to make sure that you have the access to people and feedback to make it as polished as possible. So if that means like dragging me into a couple, hour-long meetings or whatever to just workshop something with you, that's not a problem. Or if it's pulling a few of the folks here, or we have like a breakout session in a few of these readiness and adoption committee meetings to just have people sit down and give you feedback in the moment. Like whatever you need.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will say the deadline for submission is January 8th, so we'll have a better picture of what that looks like. But I think there is enough interest that we can continue moving forward regardless.
Great.
Yeah, and
I'm really excited about that possibility, and I agree with Albert, getting the larger group here involved and giving feedback and working through some of that would be really great. So. Okay, well, we are at the end of our meeting time today, and so we will pick up. We had our normal end of the meeting stuff to go over, but I think I'll send that in the follow-up message that we send out for the meetings. But I wanted to take some time really quickly before everybody left to thank everybody for all your hard work over the year of 2025. We've had a great year. We've had a lot of ideas that have now been coming into fruition and delivering really interesting products that are realizing the promise of what we've been formed to do. So I'm just can't say enough about how amazed I am at all of our project groups and the stuff that they're moving forward and thinking about, and just everybody's coming to these meetings and giving feedback and providing a listening board, a sounding board for all the concepts and products that are being developed. So just really want to thank everybody for all of your hard work over this year and your participation, and really looking forward to what happens in 2026. So thank you so much, everybody, for all of your work. So.
thank you, Rich.
Thanks,
Take care.
Rich.
Okay.